Tonight, former central bank governor Muhammadu Sanusi warns that the country is living on extra time, urges Nigerians to wisely choose next leaders in the 2023 general elections. Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo challenges professionals in the All Progressives Congress to stand up and be counted in the efforts towards changing the nation's politics. Over 100 ISWAP fighters and their families surrendered to troops in the northeast as military intensifies aerial bombardment in the area. And world leaders step up dialogue to douse tension over feared invasion of Ukraine by Russia. Plus, other international news from our studio in London.
On Business News tonight, House of Representatives begins investigation into unclaimed 1.3 trillion naira funds in Nigeria's commercial banks.
On Sports News tonight, the Nigeria Football Federation retains coach Augustine Eguavoin as Super Eagles interim technical advisor, announces Emmanuel Amunike as the team's chief coach.
And from the nation's capital, federal government receives additional 1.9 million doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccines from the EU, bringing the total number of the single-dose vaccine in the country to 12.9 million.
With political activities gathering momentum ahead of the 2023 general elections, former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Muhammadu Sanusi, has admonished Nigerians to choose their next leaders wisely. While dismissing any possibility of joining partisan politics, the former emir of Kano expressed his desire to make himself readily available for service to humanity, just as he challenged religious leaders to speak up as the conscience of the people. He was speaking in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, during a reception organized in his honor by Egba Muslim community.
To be honest, this country we are living on extra time. In 2015, we were in a deep hole. In 2023, we will be in an even much deeper hole than in 2015. The challenges facing all those people who are struggling to be president, I hope they understand that the problems they are going to face are multiples of the problems that were faced in 2015. And all of us have to be ready for difficult decisions. And if they're not taken, we're all going to pay for it. But the solution is not for all of us to jump into politics. This country needs good politicians. It needs imams and pastors and bishops who are going to stand up and remind them of the fear of God. It needs technocrats who are going to critique their policies. It needs traditional rulers who are going to speak as the conscience of the people. Everyone has a role to play. And we should try to play that role to the best of our ability. I think, but in the end, we all have to submit to Allah. I think the most important thing is that we should continue to pray to our country, that whoever emerge as president, governors, senators, members of the House, chairman of the leadership at all levels, that we get good leaders.
Meanwhile, for the main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, there is no alternative to remaining united ahead of the 2023 general elections. The governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, says this has become imperative to rescue the country, which he says is currently bleeding from what he describes as the bad leadership of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC. He was speaking in Kaduna during a courtesy visit to the former governor of the state, Senator Ahmed Makarfi, who also affirmed the need for the PDP to provide the much-needed leadership for the country.
Nigeria is bleeding. Nigeria is doing what? Bleeding. Yes. And so, if we're not united, Nigeria will not forgive us. Because every Nigerian is hoping that PDP must come and stop this bleeding. And we require everybody. This is not about who want to run for presidency. That's not the issue. Who want to zone presidency. That's not the issue at all. The issue here is that all of you, as a matter of duty, must be united. If you like zone presidency to the west, if you're not united, what can you win an election? So first of all, is the unity of the party. Forgive anybody who may not have, or who have gone astray. Bring back everybody. You have that leadership quality to forgive. And I know you very well.
You played a key role along with their colleagues in making us have a very successful national convention. There were a lot of interests, a lot of differences, but you didn't rest. You move around day and night, up and down, talking here and there. Tempers may have fled at one time, they cooled down. At the end of the day, we came as PDP family and put our adversaries to shame. And it's what they can never do. Your Excellency, we can do it again going forward. Yes. I absolutely believe with the same energy and perseverance, we can do it again. With that party, if you have ticket to do what we did, what will you do with the ticket of a party which is dead or near dead or cannot win election? Therefore, we have to build the party first. We have to be united, and north or south, east or west. When the time comes and we sit down and say, look, looking at the environment, this is the best way we all go.
Well, staying with politics, bringing the ethics of professionalism into the political landscape formed the core of conversations at the inaugural conference of the All Progressives Congress Professionals Forum, which held at the banquet hall of the State House in Abuja. Delivering his remarks at the event, Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo says it is time to change the various negative narratives about the Nigerian politician. Our State House correspondent, Kayla Megwa, reports.
It's a conversation that's prominent in the political space. Can Nigeria have more professionals in other fields in its political space? Terms like professional politicians have been brandished over the years as a way of explaining away the fact that most politicians in Nigeria have no other professional qualifications. This gathering is made up of what the ruling All Progressives Congress calls the APC Professionals Forum. Politicians who are professionals in other fields and intend to bring those skills on board while conducting their duties in their political office. The chairman of the Board of Trustees of the forum goes back to the promise the party made to the Nigerian people and how professionals actively involved in party politics can help deliver this promise.
The APC Professional Forum believes in the capacity and capability of professionals who are actively involved in party politics to deliver dividends of democracy to the people based on the manifesto of the party, which is in the first instance was marketed to the people and later formed the basis of social contact between the party and in the government and the people.
Presentations are made on the role of professionals in politics and what challenges and prospects lay ahead for the professionals in Nigeria's political space. For the Vice President, he goes further to harp on the burden of nation building placed on the shoulders of the political class. According to him, no actual progress can be made if professionals who are in the political space are still driven by parochial sentiments.
If someone told me, for example, that the pilot who is to fly the plane that I'm to go in is not a very good pilot, but he's from Ikene, my hometown, I certainly won't go in that plane. So in the same way, we must especially refuse to be swayed by those whose sole argument for power is an appeal to sectional sentiments. We must resist it, and we must say no to it, because otherwise we fail in our professional calling.
Holding public office in Nigeria at any level is largely perceived as synonymous with the accumulation of power, privilege, and wealth. So turning this tide is at the heart of our task as professionals. who are interested or involved in politics and nation building.
This particular conversation about professionalism in political conduct in the country, where there are sanctions for bad behavior, is one that a lot of Nigerians have been clamoring for. And it'll be interesting to see what the future holds in this regard. From the Banquet Hall of State House in Abuja, Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, according to Yaga Africa, a civil society organization, politicians will not be able to rig elections in Nigeria if all eligible citizens come out to vote during elections. They said this while sensitizing traders in Abuja on the need for them to get their permanent voters card ahead of the February 12 area council election in the Federal Capital Territory. According to the executive director, Yaga Africa, citizens cannot sit on the fence on the issue of governance, but should participate to ensure that the right leaders are elected. Our correspondent, Emperor Simon, reports.
Days to the area council election in the Federal Capital Territory, Yaga Africa, a civil society organization, is reaching out to traders at the Dutsen Alhaji Market in Buhari Area Council to sensitize them to the need to collect their permanent voters card and vote during the elections. Handbills and other information are handed to the traders by members of the group as they interact with them on areas of concern.
One way to stop politicians from rigging elections is to come out en masse, vote, stay at the polling station until ballots are counted and results are declared.
The group is also giving particular attention to women.
A lot of Nigerian women are in informal sectors, in the markets. How are these markets organized? How are taxes done? Most times you see multiple taxations for the average citizens in the country. That is what local government is responsible for. If you do not vote, you will not have leaders who care about your livelihood at the local level.
Meanwhile, Yaga Africa is calling on President Muhammadu Buhari to assent to the amended electoral bill.
If he's committed to electoral reforms, then he should assent to the bill this week so it fast-tracks the preparations for future elections.
The area council election is scheduled to hold in 68 wards of the 6 area councils of the FCT on February 12, 2022.
Voter apathy still remains a big challenge in Nigeria, with many of the citizens having the impression that their votes do not count eventually. According to the Independent National Electoral Commission, in the 2019 general elections, only 82.3 million Nigerians registered for the election. And even out of that number, just 28.6 million registered voters voted. Hopefully, this outreach by Yaga Africa would encourage more Nigerians, especially those in the market, to go out and exercise their franchise. And also, the politicians would respect their rights. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
And to the judiciary, where the arraignment of the 3 suspected killers of 5-year-old Hanifa Abubakar before the Kano State High Court was stalled today as the defendants had no legal representation. They instead prayed the court to order the Kano State government to provide a counsel for them. Abdul Malik Tanko, Hashimu Isiaku and Fatima Bashir are standing trial on the allegations of kidnapping, killing Hanifa and demanding a ransom of 6 million naira from Hanifa's parents. The suspects were initially arraigned February the 2nd before Chief Magistrate Mohammed Jibril on a 4-count charge: kidnapping, culpable homicide, conspiracy and concealment of a child. The prosecution, led by Kano State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice Musa Lawan, sought for adjournment to enable the state provide legal representation for the accused. Justice Usman Naaba thereafter adjourned the case till the 14th of February. In part 2, after the break, Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, says reasonable grounds for suspicion have been established in the allegations of corruption against Deputy Commissioner of Police, Abba Kyari. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Former Central Bank Governor Mahamudu Sanusi warns that the country is living on extra time, urges Nigerians to wisely choose the next leaders in the 2023 general elections. Vice President Professor Babajide challenges professionals in the All Progressives Congress to stand up and be counted in the effort towards changing the nation's politics. Over 100 ISWAP fighters and their families surrendered to troops in the northeast as military intensifies aerial bombardment in the area. And world leaders step up dialogue to douse tension over feared invasion of Ukraine by Russia. And the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, has been giving an update on the investigation of the suspended police intelligence chief, Abba Kyari, on his role in the $1 million scam allegedly perpetrated by Rahman Abbas, widely known as Hush Puppy. According to the Attorney General of the Federation, the Nigerian and U.S. governments are in the process of joint investigation, including consideration for extradition, given the establishment of reasonable grounds for suspicion. He was speaking on our program Politics Today, where he also touched on separatist agitations. Sunday Adeyemo also called Sunday Igboho and Nnamdi Kanu.
Yeah, it is about international collaboration. We are collaborating, we are working, and then it is work in progress.
But the Abba Kyari matter is not about collaboration. It's about the investigation that was instituted on Nigerians within the police, and also will link to your office.
But there are components of it. It is of international dimension. One thing I can tell you about
what's the outcome of the investigation from Nigerian side?
Well, there are a lot of issues that are ongoing, inclusive of the possibility of consideration for extradition and associated things. That is where the collaboration element of it comes into play, in respect of all the two cases.
So there's a possibility of extradition?
There could be a need or perhaps the possibility of making such requests, and they are looking into it.
Was there a request for extradition?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the parties are discussing, the parties are collaborating, and then there are exchange of correspondence from the perspectives of investigation, from the perspectives of extradition and associated things.
Is a police officer found guilty from the investigation?
You can't find someone guilty. You can't find someone guilty, but perhaps the reasonable grounds for suspicion can be established, will translate to prosecution that will eventually translate.
Because the panel has a quasi-judicial role and function. So they could also, of course, find some kind of culpability in their investigation.
Prima facie case, that is what we are talking of, reasonable grounds for suspicion. Reasonable grounds for suspicion has been established, and that will eventually translate to the possibility of prosecution and eventual conviction, if indeed, at the end of the day, the one is adjudged guilty by a court of law.
So let's look at the issue of the likes of Nnamdi Kanu and Sunday Igboho. For Sunday Igboho's matter, what is the latest on that?
Well, it is a matter being prosecuted at the, at a foreign country, and within the context of that prosecution, one thing that is apparent and visible is he has been taken to custody, and taken to custody on account of breaching laws applicable in a foreign nation, and with that in mind, he is being prosecuted.
So there is no effort in bringing him back home?
Well, we will allow the law of a nation that was indeed breached to take its natural course, and then perhaps maybe thereafter bringing him back home after the conclusion of the trial over there for the purpose of facing the Nigerian law that was accordingly breached. So the position of things is we are not interfering in aborting the existing prosecution at the foreign land, taking into consideration that the laws that were alleged to have been breached were indeed the laws of the foreign nation.
So there's no possibility of a political solution into the matter?
Well, in terms of political solution, taking into consideration his standing trial in a foreign land, what political solution can we bring to bear in terms
because the agitation is there. It may be standing trial, but the agitation, the same thing goes for Nnamdi Kanu.
Well,
any possibility of political resolution or intervention?
Not in terms of what he is standing trial for at the foreign nation. So perhaps maybe those considerations may be considered or perhaps may be brought to bear when he is eventually brought back after the conclusion of the trial at the foreign nation.
What about Nnamdi Kanu? Is there still possibility?
You see, in terms of
political
prosecution, you cannot
intervention?
rule out any possibility. In terms of prosecution, the laws of the land naturally takes their natural course.
Well, staying with the courts, the Supreme Court has fixed May 6 for judgment in a legal tussle by Rivers and Imo State over the ownership of 17 oil wells in their territories. The Apex Court fixed the date after lawyers involved in the oil ownership tussle adopted their written addresses. While adopting his final address, the plaintiff, Joseph Daudu, asked the Apex Court to give judgment in favor of Rivers State on the grounds that historical evidence right from 1927 till date clearly indicates that the oil well belonged to the state. In their arguments, counsels to Imo State and the Attorney General of the Federation, Ulusha Laoke and Remi Olatubora, asked the Apex Court to dismiss the suit on the grounds that it ought to have originated from the Federal High Court. They claim that because of the nature of the matter, oral evidence ought to have been called for from the people of the area to confirm where they actually belong. They contended that Rivers ought not to have started the suit from the Supreme Court and therefore prayed the court to dismiss the suit. Justice Olukayode Ariwola thereafter announced May 6th for judgment. And we're off to Abuja where we have more stories. Here's Terry Kume. Hi, Terry.
Hello, Millicent. Nice to see you again. A hope of getting more Nigerians inoculated against COVID-19 is now brighter as the federal government has received additional doses of 1,936,050 doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccines from the European Union. The latest shipment brings the number of this single-dose vaccine in the country to 12.9 million. The federal government says it had earlier procured 39.8 million doses of the vaccine through the African Union, which are yet to be fully delivered.
The European Union ambassador to Nigeria, representatives of the World Health Organization and other members of the diplomatic community officially present 1,936,050 doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccines from the European Union to the Nigerian government. The vaccines, which are donations from Finland, Greece and Slovenia, are part of the 20 million doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccines the European Union promised the federal government.
The European Union is now stepping up its efforts to support Africa, where vaccination is lower than in other parts of the world. Today's donation signifies the continuation of the commitment of the European Union and its member states to support Nigeria's fight against COVID-19.
COVID-19 vaccination in Nigeria is very low. Only 15.7 million people, representing 14.1% of the country's targeted population, have received their first dose. However, the WHO and UNICEF are hopeful that the latest donations of Johnson & Johnson, which is a single-shot vaccine, will help to scale up vaccination in the country.
As the only single-dose COVID-19 vaccine approved for use to date, the vaccine may be an important tool for accessing difficult-to-reach populations, thus playing a key role in preventing infections and reducing deaths across the country.
Now we have to accelerate the program, not only accelerate it, but also to ensure that it's integrated within the immunization program, which is integrated into primary health care systems at state level. Johnson & Johnson vaccines have a 2-year expiry date, so it allows the government of Nigeria to be able to manage the vaccines appropriately.
Nigeria first received a shipment of 177,600 doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccines in August 2021. Thereafter, the government says it has procured an additional 39,850,000 doses of Johnson & Johnson through the African Union. However, the government says only a little above 12 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccines are currently in the cold stores, waiting to be distributed to hard-to-reach communities, including security-compromised areas.
Potentially, we have over 50 million doses of the J&J vaccine that will be really focused on the hard-to-reach areas, security-compromised areas, the riverine areas. With the over 10 million doses that we got through the COVAX, and then the 2 million doses, add and take a few, we're looking at somewhere around 12 million doses, right, currently in stock.
COVID-19 vaccine hesitancy is a major challenge in Nigeria, but the government is hoping that the deployment of the Johnson & Johnson single-dose shots will eventually help to bridge the gap.
Away from COVID-19, the president has returned to Abuja after attending the 35th ordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of Government of the African Union in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. While at the summit, President Muhammadu Buhari presented Nigeria's peer review report to the 31st Africa Peer Review Forum of the African Union. The president pledged his administration's commitment to the protection of the poor and vulnerable in the country. On the sidelines of the summit, he met with the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, where both leaders called for visionary leadership and strong institutions in Africa that caters to the needs of the people and provide disincentives to conflict and coups. Also during the meeting with the Prime Minister of Palestine, Mohammed Shtayyeh, President Buhari pledged Nigeria's commitment to the pursuit of peace and progress in Africa and other parts of the world by consistently standing for justice, fairness and inclusiveness in global affairs. Well, still ahead on the news at 10, House of Representatives begins investigations into unclaimed 1.3 trillion naira funds in Nigeria's commercial banks. That's on Business News. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news at 10. To security matters now. A total of 104 fighters of the Islamic State West Africa province, ISWAP, and their families have surrendered to the Nigerian military. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Bernard Onyuko, confirmed this to Channels Television today, saying 22 of them are males, 27 females, and 55 children. They were said to have surrendered to troops of 25 Task Force Brigade Damboa, Borno State on Saturday, February 5, 2022. According to Major General Onyuko, troops in the theater of operations in the northeast have continued to record successes over activities of ISWAP. Military fighter aircraft, including Super Tucano belonging to the Nigerian Air Force, were said to have raided ISWAP camps in a week-long sustained aerial bombardment. And in Kaduna State, gunmen have kidnapped a priest of the Catholic Church of Kafanchan Diocese, Reverend Father Joseph Shekari. The priest was abducted from his residence at Ikulufari in Chawai local government of Kauru village at about midnight on Sunday. In a statement by the Chancellor, Kafanchan Diocese, Okechukwu Okolo, the church solicited for intense prayers for the release of the priest. Although the police are yet to make a comment on the incident, a resident of Kauru told Channels Television that the priest returned from a Thanksgiving service on Sunday night, and later the gunmen stormed his residence and forcefully took him away. The source added that attackers also shot the Reverend Father's cook, who was a secondary school student, to death before taking the priest away to an unknown destination. And that's all from the nation's capital. Back to Lagos with Millicent.
Thanks, Terry. To some company news. As part of its yearly partner awards, MUCA has rewarded its business partners with over 111 million naira worth of scholarships, high-end laptops and educational materials for their children. In addition, 15 junior staff of MUCA went home with scholarships for their children to the tune of 5 million naira as an act of goodwill from the company. At the scholarship presentation ceremony in Lagos, the managing director of the company said MUCA believes its partners are critical to the growth of the company and seeks to empower the next generation of business partners through this initiative.
This all in the Ikeja area of Lagos plays host to staff, top management and key business partners of MUCA Limited. In its usual tradition, it's time to reward partners who have helped the beddings manufacturer achieve its business goals in 2021.
For sustainability and growth of any business to be established, you need to actually build into the future. And one of the things Mocha is doing with the award ceremony that we're doing now is actually building into the future.
This time, the reward is not directly for the business partners. Muka says it's building the next generation by awarding educational scholarships for children of its business partners.
30 of our distributors' children will be going on with scholarship of different categories, and about 130 of such distributors will also be going on with additional educational materials. We have 160 distributors that have won one various form of scholarship or the other.
One by one, partners man the podium for the education cash grants on behalf of their children. The top prizes of 3 million naira each are given to 2 top performers.
Great, excited. This is the result of hard work. We have cousins out there that are looking for this opportunity, looking for people to push them, just like some did for us.
Business partners are not the only beneficiaries. Staff of the company also receive grants on behalf of their children. For the mattress manufacturer, living his thrill through generations is important, one the brand ambassador lends a voice to.
What I have history with Mocha, and so I am going to go all the way to be the brand ambassador and to showcase and tell the whole world that this is where you're supposed to be. This is what you're supposed to lie on, Mocha mattresses.
Mocha's portfolio of products include pillows and variety of mattresses through which the company says it's adding comfort to life.
And the highly acclaimed television game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is returning to your screens. This time it promises to even be more exciting and keep the audience on the edge of their seats. The organisers unveil the host at a colourful event held in Lagos. The new season is starting March 2022 and will run for 52 weeks.
It's an event organised to formally present the new sponsors and the host of the long-awaited return of the show.
In general, not just the media or entertainment space, but financial services.
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Series 2, The Rebirth, is starting with a list of sponsors led by UP, a payments and fintech company in collaboration with BLK Hut Media, the show's producers in Nigeria. A fourth lifeline has been introduced to spice up the game. It is called Ask the Host. And with the ultimate prize raised from 10 to 20 million naira, there's more to play for.
This is a new dispensation. So, who wants to be a millionaire?
The highlight of the evening is the unveiling of the host. The announcement is made adopting the element of suspense, a core element of the show.
Thank you. You're far too kind. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for that wonderful applause. So it feels so good to come back and reprise the role of host of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And this time, I can't even reveal to you what I have seen. I have goose pimples all over my body. I feel like a plucked chicken. The studio is magnificent. All right, let's play Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
The witty host wastes no time in putting the game and the new dynamics to test with the live audience at the event.
MC. Let's put them in the right order.
We've ensured that the technology behind what is driving ability to participate and ability to win is easily accessible to people. So what are we doing? You can dial *569 to have access to it. You can use the Hope channel to *569#9, or you can use the bank code.
We believe that any investment in education is an investment in the future of our country. And so we want to take people back to learning, to knowledge. And that is why one of the reasons why we believe in putting our money behind this. In a few weeks from now, specifically not beyond March, the show will start and we'll be able to say, let's play Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire has been off the air since 2017, and with the relaunch, the organizers say the show will continue to create wonderful memories for Nigerians as they learn while having fun.
And Anne Waldo has the latest business stories. Here she is.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Millicent. Hello and welcome to Business News. The House of Representatives has started investigation into unclaimed 1.3 trillion naira in the Nigerian commercial banks. The chairman of the ad hoc committee set up by the House, Onyime Idem, stated that the investigation became imperative as the country's budget deficit continues to increase. He mentions that these deficits are being financed by domestic and foreign loans, which are no longer sustainable.
These deficits are being financed by domestic and foreign loans, which are no longer sustainable as the debts are mounting in the face of dwindling resources. And on the other hand, our nation is faced with multifaceted challenges ranging from insecurity, high rate of unemployment, and hyperinflation, to mention just a few. The core objectives of this committee's assignments is to recover any hanging funds that are currently in the hands of unauthorized persons/individuals and corporate bodies. Review of the Central Bank of Nigeria intervention funds/scheme from year 2000 to 2021 in order to evaluate its impact and also conduct an assessment in its operations.
The governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sonolu, has signed a bill regulating real estate transactions in the state. The bill, which was signed along with other two bills at the State House, were passed by the House of Assembly last year. Governor Sonolu says the law to regulate the real estate transactions in Lagos will help protect its citizens, the unsuspecting Lagosians who fall prey to many real estate professionals. He also says the real estate law will also help players in the sector know what is expected of them and allow government to track activities within the sector. Some company news now. Guarantee Trust Holdings Company, GTCO, says that it has completed the acquisition of 100% shareholding in two subsidiaries of Financial Services Limited Investment One. In a statement sent to the Nigerian Exchange Limited today, the parent company of Guarantee Trust Bank explains that the acquisition is in line with the evolution of the Guarantee Trust brand and becoming a full-fledged financial services company on the African continent. Investment One Financial Services Limited was incorporated in 2008 as GTB Asset Management was divested by Guarantee Trust Bank's subsidiary GTB Asset Management back in 2012, in line with a directive from the central bank in 2010. Still to more company news, telecoms giant Airtel Africa has released its earnings report for the third quarter of 2021. And according to the financial statement sent to the Nigerian Exchange, the telco's revenue grew by 22.53% to $3.49 billion within the period. And that's in contrast to $2.85 billion reported in the same period last year. At the same time, the company's pre-tax profit jumped by 79.25% to $864 million. After tax profit the tax was gotten more by nearly 97% to $514 million. Its earnings per share soared by more than 112% within the period under review. Renewed sell pressure by investors pushed Nigeria's stock market's key indicators today deeper in the red. That's amid improvement on the activity chart. Will Ibong has the details.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. The local equities market kicked off the second trading week of February on a negative note due to the fresh round of profit-taking by investors as they continue to take advantage of the recent gain recorded in the markets. At the close of today's trading session, the market's benchmark indicator dropped further by 0.16%, but still remains within the 47,000 level points, while total value of listed equities declined by about 11 billion naira to 25.436 trillion naira. Now, the renewed downturn in the market's overall performance is largely attributed to sell pressure on 22 equities, which include MTN Nigeria, NEM Insurance, O&O, and Okomu Oil. The impact also affected the performance of the sector's indexes. Now, meanwhile, performance on the activity chart was quite impressive for the start of the week, as the total volume of shares traded for the day increased by 26.49%, while value and deals were up by 115.02 and 30.52% each. So far, the market's month and year-to-date return remains in positive territory, and traders say they still expect a strong rebound on the indicators within the week, as more corporate earnings reports will be released to the exchange in the coming days. And that's the stock market report. I'm Will Ibang. It's back to you.
Thank you, Will. But let's find out how major global stock markets ended Monday's trading session. And that's Business News Tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Mwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Millicent.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Anne. France's President Emmanuel Macron has met with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in Moscow, while U.S. President Joe Biden hosts the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz in Washington. The meetings are holding as world leaders step up efforts to reduce tensions over Ukraine as fear of a Russian invasion grows. Meanwhile, the EU's foreign policy chief, Josep Borrell, says Europe is going through its most dangerous moments since the Cold War. During a press conference this evening, he stressed a diplomatic solution with Russia over Ukraine remains possible. Simon Pusey has more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The Mayor of Canada's capital, Ottawa, has declared a state of emergency in response to more than a week of truckers' protests against COVID restrictions. Jim Watson said the city was completely out of control, with demonstrators outnumbering police, and he said that protests posed a threat to resident safety. Ottawa's centre has been paralysed with vehicles and tents blocking roads. The Freedom Convoy was sparked by the introduction last month of a new rule that all truckers must be vaccinated to cross the US-Canada border. But the protests have morphed into broader challenges against COVID health restrictions. The protesters have since gathered in downtown Ottawa near Parliament Hill, and their demands have grown to include ending all such mandates nationwide and opposing the government of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Australia has announced the reopening of its borders to vaccinated tourists and other visa holders for the first time in almost 2 years.
It's almost 2 years since we took the decision to close the borders.
The reopening on the 21st of February will be welcome news for many sectors, including international education. Australia has had some of the world's strictest border controls throughout the coronavirus pandemic.
The condition is you must be double vaccinated to come to Australia. That's the rule. Everyone is expected to abide by it, and it's very important that people understand that requirement if they're seeking to come to Australia. But if you're double vaccinated, we look forward to welcoming you back to Australia.
People in Morocco have buried the 5-year-old boy who died after being trapped in a well for 4 days. Rayan Oram fell down the 32-metre well on the 1st of February, sparking painstaking efforts to rescue him that drew attention from around the world. Hundreds gathered at the well and thousands more followed the rescue efforts online. His apparent rescue was initially met with cheers from the crowds, but this turned to heartbreak minutes later when it was announced that the rescue had come too late. The US Coast Guard and a Good Samaritan have rescued 18 people who were stranded on an ice floe in Lake Erie after it broke away from Catawba Island in Ohio. The group of 18 were riding snowmobiles and all-terrain vehicles on the frozen lake when the section they were on broke away. A US Coast Guard helicopter crew were the first to spot the stranded group and initiate a rescue operation. The Coast Guard rescued 11 of the group with an airboat and helicopter. A fire in a rural part of the state of Western Australia has sent a large plume of smoke and dust into the sky. 2 fires burned in the region on Sunday. Bushfires in the state wrecked at least half a dozen homes and destroyed over 60,000 hectares of bushland. It's thought that more than 1,300 people have been fighting the blazes. A highway bridge in northwest Germany was detonated in front of onlookers in the northern Rhine-Westphalia area. The controlled detonation had to be monitored closely to prevent damage to the new bridge alongside it. For safety reasons, the crowd of curious bystanders had to maintain a distance of 300 metres and the area was temporarily sealed off. The Queen's accession gun salute has taken place across the UK to mark the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. Here, the Honourable Artillery Company conducting a 62-gun salute at the Tower of London. Platinum Jubilee is 70 years since Queen Elizabeth ascended to the throne. In June this year, it will be celebrated over a special 4-day bank holiday weekend. And finally, around 337 ancient artefacts dating back to different historical eras have landed in Baghdad after being handed over by Lebanon. The artefacts mostly consist of clay tablets with inscriptions from the Akkadian era and the Old Babylonian. A Lebanese committee had been investigating the origin of the artifacts since 2018. Iraq's ancient heritage has been decimated by conflict, destruction and looting, especially since 2003. Thousands of artifacts are still missing. With the help of international agencies, Iraqi authorities have been trying to track down, return and preserve its archaeological relics. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. And now for some sports news, here's Chris Willems.
Welcome to Sports News. The Nigeria Football Federation has confirmed Augustine Eguavoin will continue as the interim technical advisor of the Super Eagles, while former Flying Eagles coach Emmanuel Amunike has been drafted in as his immediate assistant. The NFF clarified that Coach Eguavoin will while acting as the team's interim technical advisor, will also continue his role as technical director of the NFF. Emmanuel Amunike becomes the chief coach of the Super Eagles. Also, Salisu Yusuf will be the second assistant coach of the team and chief coach of the Chan team, while Joseph Yobo will be third assistant, while Aloysius Agu remains the goalkeeper's trainer. The Nigeria Football Federation says it's leaving no stone unturned to ensure the Super Eagles of Nigeria secure a World Cup ticket. President of the Federation, Amaju Pinnick, says this could make up for the second-round exit of the Super Eagles at the just concluded African Cup of Nations. Senegal President Macky Sall earlier today received the Teranga Lions as the new African champions arrived back in Dakar after lifting the African Cup of Nations trophy in Cameroon. Led by Liverpool star Sadio Mane, Senegal overcame Mohamed Salah's Egypt 4-2 in a penalty shootout in Sunday's final in Cameroon. The president had earlier declared a national holiday to celebrate the nation's first African title. Large crowds of supporters also gathered in other parts of the city, singing songs and waving flags.
Le Sénégal. Ouais.
Manchester United footballer Mason Greenwood has been dropped by sportswear giant Nike following his arrest on suspicion of rape. The 20-year-old was also arrested on suspicion of assault and then later on suspicion of sexual assault and making threat to kill. Nike previously said it had suspended its relationship with him, but the company has now officially ended it. Speed skater Irene Wood has become the first person to win an individual hockey, with Wood's compatriot Antoinette Dejon in third. It is a record extending 12th Olympic speed skating medal for 35-year-old Woods, who is retiring next month. And that's sports. I'm Chris Alems. Back to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Chris. And the main news again. Former central bank governor Mahamudu Sanusi today warned that the country is living on extra time. He admonished Nigerians to wisely choose next leaders in the 2023 general elections. Also today, Vice President Professor Babajide challenged professionals in the ruling All Progressives Congress to stand up and be counted in the efforts towards changing the nation's politics. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Nwaka. Have a good night and stay safe.